Hello and welcome to this how-to all about how to plank. Planking is a great way of developing functional core strength because as we're engaging our core, we're also keeping the spine long. So we're learning how to be strong and aligned as we move throughout our day. Sitting, walking, running, lifting, carrying, pushing, pulling, all with good alignment, more core power, more core control, and while also reducing strain on the rest of the body, the lower back, shoulders, hips, and knees. Now, in this how-to, I guide you through a progression of exercises, starting with exercises that are more accessible for newcomers to planking and gradually moving to more challenging variations. So if planking is new for you, this how-to is an ideal starting place. I'll be guiding you through how to first find and properly engage your core, how to reduce lower back strain, and in general, how to avoid any unnecessary tension through the body as we move through the exercises. Now, this is meant to be a mini workout as well, so I invite you to join me as we move through everything. I guide you through lots of cues and techniques so that you can do the exercises as safely and effectively as possible. However, as always, I want to remind you to listen to your body, to take care of its specific needs, and to feel free to make any modifications at any time that feel right for you. Okay, so with that said, let's get started. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to practice is finding and engaging our core while standing in the plank form. And so all you need is a little bit of wall space, enough for your body. And if you can come to standing against it with your heels touching the wall, the back of your hips, and the back of your ribs. The back of your head may or may not be touching the wall. Don't worry about that too much. Just bring your chin in and back as much as is comfortable. And as long as the back of the ribs and the back of the hips are touching the wall, that's great. Now you'll feel that in your lower back, there's a natural space there. We're meant to have that lower back curvature through the spine. However, in the plank form, we're going to try to reduce that space so that when we're down in the plank, we're not going to collapse into the lower back. Okay, so how we do that is by drawing the bottom ribs together and down and slightly back into the wall, and by pressing the navel towards the spine. And just feel that space in the lower back should be reduced. Okay, and so I want you to feel that you're engaging your abdominal muscles as you do that. Okay, try not to overly clench your glutes or your hips as a substitute. Okay, the tailbone is lengthening down and the pelvis is tilting slightly, but it's coming from drawing your navel in as opposed to gripping or tucking aggressively with your hips. Okay, so holding this position, we have to breathe. And so instead of belly breathing, of letting the stomach relax and expand with our breath, which is great for relaxing, but not so great for planking. And instead of sucking in our abdominals and breathing shallowly up into the chest, which doesn't allow for good oxygen exchange and really is not that strong of a position in our core. Instead of doing that, we want to keep our ribs drawn in and our navel drawn in and breathe into the back of the body. So if you can feel as you're breathing in, widen the back of the ribs, breathe into the sides of the ribs like an accordion expanding open. And as you breathe out, squeeze the accordion to close so the front ribs draw in even more and the navel draws in even more. Breathe into the back of the body, really widening it out to the sides of the ribs like an accordion. And breathe out, squeeze the front ribs to close even more, drawing the navel in. And we'll take 2 more breaths here. Breathe in widely to the back of the ribs. And breathing out, squeezing the ribs to close, relaxing the shoulders, relaxing the chest, drawing the navel in for 1 more time. Breathing in, widening the back. Breathing out, squeezing the ribs, drawing the navel in, chest and shoulders relaxed. Okay, and just see if you can keep breathing this way, feeling like you could maintain a sense of it throughout your day as you're walking, running, especially if you're lifting and carrying things so that you have more core support and there's less strain in your back. Not to be like a robot and to be really rigid, but to keep a sense of this core connection and to breathe widely into the back. And if you take nothing else from this how-to, this will be a lot. Staying strong and connected from the center, keeping your breath really full and wide, and keeping the spine long. All right, so now we're going to be taking our plank form onto the mat and we're going to start in the all fours position. So it might feel more comfortable for you to have some padding underneath your knees. You could use a towel or a blanket underneath them. And how we're going to be challenging our plank position is by moving the arms and the legs while trying to maintain our core stability. So while the arms and legs are moving, they're not the focus. The core stability is our focus, okay? So come into your all fours position. If you can have your hands right underneath your shoulders with the middle finger pointing straight ahead and the knees right underneath your hips. And instead of hyperextending the elbows, if you can slightly micro bend your elbows. So you're pulling your shoulders down, you're squeezing your lats, the muscles of your armpits, so that there's lots of space between the shoulders and the ears. And then just feeling in your natural all fours position, the lower back might have a tendency to sag towards the floor. And so we want to remember what we did against the wall, where you're widening your back and where you're drawing your bottom ribs in and you're drawing your navel towards your spine. It actually might feel like you have a seat belt pulled tight across your hips. And we're going to maintain that core stability as we begin our motion. So we'll inhale widely into the back. And as you exhale, draw your ribs and your navel in, and opposite arm and leg are going to slide off the floor just to the height where you're not letting the lower back collapse. Okay, so keeping the arm and leg kind of low. And then inhaling as they slide back in, and we'll go to the other side. Breathing out, sliding opposite arm and leg out, feeling that you're keeping your ribs and your belly button towards your spine, and then inhaling as you slide in. Exhaling as you extend out, maintaining your ribs and your navel in, keeping your core stability, and inhaling as you slide in. And for one more, breathing out as you're extending out, ribs in, navel in, you're keeping your plank, and inhaling as you slide in. And then continue with that, or if you want to challenge yourself and make it a little bit harder, we'll add on. So you breathe in widely to the back ribs, and as you exhale, you're sliding opposite arm and leg out. You're keeping everything steady. Then you inhale as you open out to the side, maintaining your stability, maintaining your plank. Exhaling as you return to front and back. Inhaling as you land in, widening the back, keeping your plank. And then other side, exhaling, sliding out, keeping it low enough that you're maintaining your plank. Inhaling, opening out to the side, nothing is shifting. Exhaling, returning to front and back, keeping your shoulders down. Inhaling, slide in, and we'll do one more to each side of either variation that feels best for you. Exhaling as you're extending out, keeping your back steady. Inhaling, opening out to the side. Exhaling, returning to front and back. Shoulders are staying down. Inhaling to slide back in. And last one, breathing out as you're extending out. Navel to spine, seatbelt tight. Inhaling, opening out to the side. Exhaling, returning to front and back. And inhaling to land back in. And then just press yourself back. Great work. All right, so now we're going to be going into our full plank. We're going to be starting off on our forearms, and we're also going to start off with the knees still down. So feel free to use that padding that you used before in the previous exercise. Okay, so we're going to be having the elbows just narrower than shoulder width apart, and you want to interlace your hands together and actually just tuck your bottom pinky out of the way so you don't squish it, and then cross your thumbs. Okay, so then once you're there, if you can walk your feet out into the full plank and gently land your knees so we can just check into our form. And so we want to remember everything that we've been taking in so far of widening the back ribs, drawing the front ribs in, drawing the navel in, and really keeping that. And just noticing here that it can be really tempting to clench the hips in an effort to engage the core, but I want you to keep the hips loose and just try to isolate the navel towards the spine. And it can be tempting as well to collapse into the shoulder blades. So really push down into the forearms strongly so that your shoulders stay down and they stay wide apart. From here, we're going to inhale into the back ribs. And as you exhale and draw the front ribs and the navel in, lift one knee off the floor, reaching out through the heel and just checking that nothing is changing. You're not letting the lower back sink. You're holding your core stability. Inhale to land and exhale to change, keeping your core stability. And inhaling to land, breathing widely into the back ribs. And exhale, closing the front ribs, drawing your navel in and lifting your knee. And breathing in to prepare. And other side, breathing out as you extend out. Okay, again, keeping your core your focus and not your knees. Breathing out as you extend and breathing in to return. Pushing your forearms really firmly into the ground. Now, staying with that, or if you want to make it more challenging, exhaling as you're lifting both knees and breathing in to lower. Okay, this is definitely harder. So feeling as you're lifting your knees, you're not letting your hips sink. You're keeping them lifted and inhaling to lower. So just continue with either version and just noticing if you feel any tension in your lower back, it's very likely because your hips have sunk. So lift your hips as much as you need to. Even if it feels like you're lifting them too high, do that so that you can keep the compression out of your back and focus on your core. And then if you want to make this even more challenging, you lift the knees and you hold them lifted. And if you're doing that, you just stay and breathe, widening into your back as you breathe in and closing the ribs and drawing your navel in as you breathe out. And just take a few more breaths with whichever variation you're doing, pressing your forearms down, keeping your shoulders away from the ears, keeping your back wide and your navel lifted for your last breath. And then just gently land your knees and press yourself back. Excellent. Okay, so we're going to do our final plank version where we're out on our hands, and I'm going to take advantage of this time to do a mini push-up tutorial. Now, I will say that the forearm plank has all the components of strengthening your core that you need. So if being out on your hands is really taxing on your wrists, you don't need to do that in order to get the full benefits of your core connection. It's really more for the upper body. Okay, so just make a wise choice for you. If you're going to come out into the full plank position, we're going to start off in the all fours. Okay, so again, hands are shoulder width apart, middle finger pointing straight ahead, shoulders are down, wide, elbows are unlocked, and you want to draw your bottom ribs and your navel in so you're in a good all fours position. And we're going to maintain that, breathing in to stay, and exhaling as you're stepping legs back into a full plank, and inhaling as you lower back to the all fours, and nothing should change there. Okay, so you're exhaling as you extend out, everything stays the same, and inhaling as you lower. And two more, breathing out, feeling your bottom ribs and your navel draw in, and breathing in to lower. For one more, exhaling, extending out, keeping everything steady, inhaling to lower. Okay, now feel free to stay with that, or we're going to extend out to our full plank and hold. Okay, you're keeping your back wide, you're keeping your bottom ribs drawn in, you're keeping your navel in. And we're going to give you an option where or take advantage of the fact that you're up onto your hands. And as you exhale, if you can, you're tucking one knee in and inhaling to land, and exhaling to tuck and inhaling to land. Being up on our hands just gives us more space to be able to do this if you want to challenge yourself. Otherwise, just hold your full plank. Okay, breathing out as you tuck, and we'll do one more to each side, holding your core connection the whole time. Okay, just gently land your knees and pushing yourself back, we'll just stretch the wrists the other way. Take a few breaths here. Okay, and so I'll go into a little bit of push-up technique, and the version of push-ups that I'm going to teach is with the elbows in by your sides, having the elbows out, the hands closer together or wider apart. All of that is great. I'm going to focus on elbows in because it helps to open the chest, pull the shoulders down, and really use the lat. So I think it's a great way to start. Just know that other variations are great as well. Okay, and the first version that we're going to do should be accessible to almost everybody. We're going to start off in the all fours position. And if you can have your hands again shoulder width apart, shoulders pulled down your back, and finding a good plank position, keeping that really steady. So you're keeping your spine straight. So what that means is as you bend your elbows into your sides, you're going to keep your hips up in the air as the upper body lowers, and then exhaling as you press up. Okay, so it's inhaling, elbows are in, you're keeping your hips in the air, and exhaling as you push. Now, it's a little easier if your weight is shifted back towards your hips as you bend your elbows in and exhale to push. There's going to be less load on your upper body. Okay, if you want to challenge yourself, as you're going down, you're slightly shifting your weight forward. So your chest is coming in between your thumbs and then exhaling as you push up. Okay, the shift is really small, but you'll feel it as you bring your chest in between your thumbs and then press up. Okay, one more. This can be really small, so only lowering to where you feel you can keep good form. Okay, and this is actually quite a lot. You can stick with this for quite a long time, or if you want to make this more difficult, you're shifting out into the kneeling plank position. Now, the only thing here in the kneeling plank is that it's really easy to sink the hips and you don't realize it. So I want you to keep the feeling that you had in the all fours and maintain that as you go out into the kneeling plank, where you're keeping your bottom ribs and your navel in and not letting the hips go down. And then otherwise, the form is the same. You're inhaling as you're bending your elbows into your sides and exhaling as you press up. And again, keeping it as small as you need so you don't have to make the motion big. It's more important to focus on form. And we'll do two more like this. Okay, you're keeping your bottom ribs and your navel in. You're keeping that core focus for one more. And exhaling to push. Okay, and then final version is we'll do just a few full push-ups. Full push-ups are really challenging, so there's no need to feel like you need to do that. These kneeling versions are fantastic for developing upper body strength. Okay, but if you're going out into the full plank, you want to make sure you're keeping your core connection. You're not letting your hips sink down. Remember, if you feel any tension in your lower back, it's probably because your hips have dropped. Okay, so keep them lifted, and we'll just do three. Okay, inhaling as you're bending your elbows in, exhaling as you push, inhaling as you're bending your elbows in, exhaling as you push, and one more. Inhaling, bending in, and exhaling to push. And gently land your knees and press yourself back. Fantastic. So thank you for working out with me. I hope that you found this interesting, useful, and most importantly, I hope that you practice the variations that are the safest and most effective for you. Remember, you're going to make the most fitness gains when you put good technique above all else. And if you did find this how-to helpful, I invite you to give it a like, to subscribe to my channel, and to share it with those whom you think might benefit. In the description, you'll see a link to the Fully Embodied Fitness Workout Series, where I guide you through a series of workouts designed to improve and increase strength, especially core strength, flexibility, posture, balance, coordination, and overall body connection. So if feeling more fully embodied sounds interesting to you, I invite you to check that out. Until the next time, as always, I'm wishing you well. Take good care.